Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm 𝙎𝙬𝘽𝙎𝘾. Well, historians like myself love to enter into the what-if zone of study, and although it's not always beneficial for academia and learning, I can tell you from experience it is delightful. Let's embark on such a query in this episode as we explore the shadowy history of one of the most important physical pieces of history from the biblical age. Now, this item was of utmost importance in the story of Israel, and it housed the very tablets that God himself inscribed the Ten Commandments to Moses at Mount Sinai. It has since been lost to history, though, so let's consider the following question. Where is the Ark of the Covenant? Here's what we know. The Ark of the Covenant was probably the most important holy object in Israel's history. It traveled with the Israelites on their journey to the Promised Land and was housed in the Holy of Holies, the inner sanctuary of the temple, where God himself would be present with the priests on the Day of Atonement, and upon completion of the sacrificial ritual, would grant forgiveness of sins to his people. Now, its last known resting place was Solomon's Temple as the crown jewel of the Davidic dynasty. But in the early 6th century BC, the Babylonians sacked Jerusalem and the Ark was lost. So there begins our question, where is the Ark and what happened to it? The answer, sadly, is that we do not know. However, there are several possibilities we need to consider. The first and perhaps most likely is that the Babylonians destroyed it when they ransacked the Israelite capital. We're not told in the later history books in the Old Testament the Ark's fate, which has left some to speculate that it must have been destroyed in the Babylonian siege. There is, however, ample evidence that the Ark could have survived the 586 BC siege of Jerusalem. Many believe some quick-thinking Jews hid the Ark in the caverns below the Temple Mount before the Babylonians could destroy it, leading to further hypotheses. Now, one of these is that the Ark was either taken or destroyed during the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans later in AD 70. Some believe, though, the Ark survived the pagan era and passed to Christian hands in the 4th century and then into Muslim hands in the 7th. Now, there are others who believe the Ark, upon the Christian recapture of Jerusalem during the First Crusade, then fell back into Christian hands and became the property of the Knights Templar, who made their headquarters at the original site of Solomon's Temple in the Old City. The Templars, secretive in their practices and reach, became exceedingly rich almost overnight, and many believe it was because they discovered and claimed ancient treasures, among which was the Ark of the Covenant, hidden in the tunnels below the temple. Now, if the Templars did indeed possess the Ark, it could have ended up anywhere. Perhaps it made its way to Western Europe after the Crusades, or perhaps it's still hidden under the Temple Mount to this day. And by the way, that's the present site of Islam's Dome of the Rock. Perhaps the Muslims destroyed it, or perhaps the Templars, upon their destruction in the 14th century, smuggled it away to a hidden place. Some believe that place could be a 15th century church in Scotland that could have been a Templar refuge, or even the infamous money pit of Oak Island off the eastern coast of Canada. Well, there's no solid answer this side of eternity, still a mystery, but fun to speculate nonetheless. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History.